Okay, so I'm going to look at this one. This wire has a clean cut. Your classic chopped right off and then buried under the tile. It actually has a little bit of a ground fault. 1.8 meg. So the thin set mortar, the moisture from that got across that cut end and created a little bit of a conductive bridge. And it actually has a 1.8 meg ohm conductive path, or a weak ground fault. So my tester's here. Oh. Alright, so tester's here. It's plugged in, power is off, got my test leads, and right back here. So I'm going to get a little more pull back on this braid because I really want as much clearance across here as I can. That should be good. I've got a black to the shield and red to the core. These test leads are a little cheesy. They'll be better on the full version. I make sure I have some good distance here. I've got really only about a 1/4 inch between that shield and that red. That's about the minimum, and I don't have anything else particularly close here. Even my multimeter is safely off to the side. So, survey the area with the thermal camera, making sure I know what it looks like ahead of time. Making sure I don't have some sort of a false positive for accidentally resting my hand or a tool, something warm on there. Make sure I know that, for example, I've got a... Where was that? Yeah. So I've got an image in the lower corner there. That's actually a reflection from the overhead lights. Change my angle and that image goes away. So once I familiarize myself with that, then I'm ready to set this to watts over to the right, power on, and hit my button. Now I've got a nice, gentle buzzing coming out of this that sounds like it's making a good spark. And my power needle went clear up to the 3 watts territory. That's a lot of power. I should start to see that spark show up with thermal camera any second now. Now you see that needle is bouncing a little bit. I can come down here to volts. You can watch the volts. This is how many volts it's taking to bridge that spark. So if it's 30 on the meter, or the little stickers we've got here about 300 volts, then it's, that's the voltage it needs to create that arc. As the voltage drops, it basically means it's creating a ground fault and it needs less voltage to bridge that gap. You got to watch and make sure that needle doesn't dip too low, because then you're not sparking anymore. But back up here at watts, plenty of power, 3 watts or so. Let's see what the thermal camera shows. Okay, so there is a spot. Unmistakable. Wasn't there before. Absolutely distinct. Not a reflection from overhead lights, not something that we had our hands on. There's even a little bit of heat down here right at the leads. It generated some heat as it was driving the power into the wire. Not really necessarily showing the wire itself. There's still very small current, not enough to heat the wire itself up. But the arc across the end, absolutely unmistakable. You can squeeze the trigger and take a picture of that if you want to, for posterity. Mark that with a Sharpie. That's where you lift your tile. And where exactly is that? That is, here's a tricky part. The camera can be difficult to aim. So what you want to do is sneak your finger in front of the camera and follow that spot down, because it might not be actually exactly where you think it is. So I can't really do that with I got both hands going here, but basically you'd have the camera, the thermal camera held out in front of you, and you get your finger down and you watch your finger and you watch that spot until finally you're touching that warm spot. It's not going to be where you expect. It's not going to be where you expect, but with if you're not holding a camera in the other hand, then it's easy enough to do. And then you mark that with a Sharpie or something, and that's where you rework your tile and splice your wire.